When I finished speaking to the citizens, it was decided that a frontal attack on the hotel was a madman's suicide attempt. The remaining powder gangers knew we were here and may have even opened their windows to see us. Whether they were smart enough to cover all the entrances had yet to be seen. Volt, do you think you can do it? There's too many variables for me to give you a definite answer. Conrad and I gave Volt the cut the shit look. If I can't do it, I'll fucking start shooting people. I nod and look towards the front doors as Volt goes into a jog up the roller coaster ramp. So, what is the whole plan? I kinda understand that you'll send Volt through an entrance they aren't protecting, but why not just have all of us go through the door up top? Men in the Legion have been taught since they were old enough to understand words that they were never going to be at any real advantage. Volt understands tactics and strategy at a beginner's level, but he still understands. He's also very bloodthirsty. He'll clear out the upstairs of the building silently and efficiently, then cut a path to the front doors for us. Unlike either of us, he is silent and meticulous. Either of us could probably kill a dozen powder gangers. But would we do it with enough silence to keep a cat sleeping and check enough corners to keep a fallen house standing? I think not. In the few months I knew Conrad, I found out how dangerous he was, more so than anyone I had ever met. Not because of how well he could fight, which I hadn't yet tried finding out, but because how much he soaked up information. When I met Conrad, he was an ignorant vault dweller who didn't know east from west. Now, a budding tactician and squad leader. His reflexes in firefights had gone from an adrenaline-pumped frenzy to a slow-breathing and calculating machine. Conrad had a very nice career ahead of him if I had anything to say about it. While we were waiting for Volt to clear the door for entry, we had been talking about the size of the boss. I was cut off mid-sentence when gunshots rang out from inside the building. I couldn't tell what floor they were coming from, bad perception roll, but I soon found out that it was extremely close. We swung the doors open to find 3 men with their backs to us. They were obviously shooting at someone behind the counter 10 meters in front of them. Conrad didn't wait to start shooting or even try to knock them out. I shot one in the back of the head and he killed the other 2 with his RCW. We waited for a second, then called out to Volt. He jumped up and over the counter in an instant. Everyone upstairs is dead, but they've got a shitload of guys in the cafeteria. What's the plan? I looked to Conrad and nodded for him to say something. Strike them while they're trying to fortify the room. They know we're coming, but if we're fast enough, we can kill them all in one fell swoop. Pretty much this meant, let's fucking kill them all. We headed through the hotel in a sprint until Conrad ran past the doorway and people started unloading at him. Talk about a late reaction. So what's the plan now? Just clear the room head first? No. Do you have a grenade? Conrad gives me a weird look. I wasn't even serious. Throw it to me. Conrad tosses me the grenade and I roll for an accuracy and speed check. Roll good on the speed, mediocre on the accuracy. I run past the doorway and toss the grenade in. After the explosion, the first one in was Richardson. More pissed off than what's more pissed off than a Deathclaw? Next to follow was Conrad and the recruits. One of the recruits caught a shotgun blast to the chest. He didn't make it, but he put a spear through the guy's neck before dropping dead right beside him. The room wasn't as filled to the brim as we had once believed, but they were ready for us by the time we had gotten to the room. It lasted only a few seconds, but by the time it was cleared out, 6 powder cucks were dead to R1. What really was strange was that we found a hostage in the kitchen. While the men were looting the bodies and burning our dead, I went over to talk to him. I didn't know the powder gangers took prisoners. I guess I was just luckier than hell. Mind untying me? I look a few seconds to try and figure some shit out. What's your name? It's Beagle, Deputy Beagle. I scoffed at him before replying. How exactly did you get caught? Where's the sheriff? Well, they ran up on me when I wasn't paying attention. As for the sheriff, they broke in his house and killed him and my sister. I paused to take Beagle's gun, which hadn't been taken away. So you're telling me that they killed your sister and your sister's husband, who is also the sheriff, and you didn't force them to kill you? He looked at me confused for a second. I wonder if your gun is still loaded. So, why'd you shoot him? He was either a traitor or a coward. Both are very dangerous. What'd the powder gangers have? I pilfered through what the powder gangers had. Absolute shit. We took their guns and threw them into a duffel bag. Once we gathered everything worth a damn, we piled all the bodies in the middle of the room and set them ablaze. When we left, we saw that the citizens of Primm were already peering out of the casino. It's done. You can all come out now. People burst out of the casino and began crowding us, asking us questions. All the while, Richardson was trying to pull a leather backpack out from under a destroyed car. The same question kept being repeated until eventually I decided to speak. The NCR no longer occupies the camp outside the town. We commenced an attack on it late in the afternoon yesterday. Also, we have made prisoners out of the surviving NCR soldiers. They will be returned to the Mojave outpost, where they belong. I began pushing my way through the crowd until I was in front of them all. As of now, Primm is under the protection of the Enclave, or as we are better known, the United States of America. I expected some mods to take over the NPCs and start yelling bullshit, but just one of the mods was playing the NPCs. Mod was neutral and didn't give a fuck about the lynch mob. After Primm was secured, we brought in the radio beacons and the Igors were deployed equally through the town. They served as a virtual alarm for hostiles. I went and talked to Nash, because he was the trader in town. Unsurprisingly, I found Eddie sitting on one of his tables. Nice spot, Bat. We do a little talking back and forth, and he's about to make me pay for the robot. Speech roll, 19. Well, you did get them powder gangers out of town, and you are in charge now. It's yours. Get fucked. Conrad grabs the broken-ass robot off the table, and we walk out of the door like we weren't only in there to get the robot. Get the beacons on the highest point of the roller coaster. Conrad, find a shitload of extension cords. We had moved all of our equipment to the hotel and found that if we moved the beacons to the highest point within the maximum distance of their wireless broadcasting, that we could almost double the power in their broadcasting and receiving. Don't ask me how. I rolled a 18 in science. Now we just need some power. Does anybody know where we can get some generators and some fuel? I was outside the hotel, so I was speaking aloud to everyone in earshot. Jackal walked up to my left and started going through his pockets. I don't know where any generators are, but I had a bottle of gasoline for a chainsaw in one of my pockets. The fucking Molotov.Robco. Don't worry about that, I'll figure something else out. He fucking walks away, confused to all hell. Eventually, we settle on using a jury-rigged wind turbine. We planned on powering the whole town for a morale boost. my face when it could only power the radio beacons at like 50% efficiency. By the way, that wasn't a bad science roll. It was just the GM being realistic, saying we'd have to spend more time and money if we wanted to give the town power. At the end of the first day, we had powered the beacons at the minimum efficiency and gotten the radio set up. One ham radio for voice input, 3 beacons for jury-rigged broadcasting, and 1 still broken iBot to process any and all information that would absolutely overload the ham radios. I rolled well on the repair, so the iBot was up and running pretty fast. I spent a few minutes going through its data. It was definitely an Enclave iBot, a combat prototype at that. It was even better than I had recently presumed. It could take the full brunt force of the radio beacons and give us some really good intel on the NCR and boss. The only downside was that the broadcasting power was only strong enough to get out into a 5-mile proximity. The current state of the beacon efficiency was part of the problem, but they weren't even made to broadcast anything. We spent a few days doing random tasks that would entrench our foothold in Primm. We built another turbine on top of the hotel, one on top of the casino, and one for the residential area of Primm. We destroyed the western bridge to the NCR camp after we ransacked it and brought the prisoners across. The bison on top of the hotel was cut down and replaced with a flagpole and an Enclave flag. After we put up the flag, we realized that Primm was not self-sufficient, not in any great deal. The flag might in fact scare away any traders who could bring much needed supplies to Primm. What if we start broadcasting on the radio? You said it is only good enough for a short distance broadcasting. When a trader gets close, they'll hear the radio before they see the flag. If they know the town is open for business, they might just ignore who owns it. Volp had picked up on it fast. He understood what it meant for people to hate him without even understanding his politics. That might work, but we need a good message to send out. We can't just say, "Come all traders, we need your shit." That'd make it seem that we are going through a time of attrition. Conrad walked over to me from his position and began fiddling with his Pip-Boy. The radius of the beacons are low, sure, but this one isn't. He flipped on New Vegas radio. If he says on the radio that we took Primm from both the NCR and the Powder Gangers, people will know that it's safe. Good thinking, Conrad, but the only issue is, how do we get him to tell everyone in the Mojave? We went silent, but he turned his gaze to the 2 youngest recruits. We already decided that it was a sacrifice worth making. Say if something bad doesn't happen to them. We can just broadcast on our radio until Mr. New Vegas is informed of what happened. I didn't respond to Conrad. I just turned to Volp and nodded. We sent the recruits that day. We gave them laser rifles and a few energy packs. If they did die, they'd take a few down with them. Their orders were to take at least 4 days to make the trek to the Mojave outpost. It only took 2. Make sure people saw them and often say that they were a part of the Enclave. If people ask what they were doing, they'd say after the captain won a decisive victory over the Powder Gangers and NCR at Primm, we were ordered to put the prisoners back into custody of the NCR. 4 days after we sent the recruits out, we got word from traders that they had seen a few of our men transporting prisoners on the road. We confirmed that it was our men, and when they moved on, they carried the word of our troops wherever they went. Eventually, when the recruits didn't return, we assumed the worst, until Mr. New Vegas came on the radio and started talking about us again. "How are you doing out there, New Vegas? I got some more news for you here. Let me get my newsman fedora." A while ago, I told you that Enclave troops were spotted in Bonnie Springs fighting off an army of snake vipers, or so it goes. Well, they've been spotted again in Primm. Eyewitnesses report that Enclave forces ambushed the NCR camp outside the town and took it within minutes. The next day, the town had its entire population of powder gangers cleared out by the Enclave. If you go by the town, you'll see an Enclave flag flying high over the Bison Steve Hotel. But that's not all, folks. Traders coming from the Mojave outpost say that young Enclave soldiers were transporting a group of NCR prisoners to the outpost. After the soldiers released the troopers, the NCR opened fire on them. I have contesting reports saying the two young men were shot to death, and another report saying they successfully got away. I think I can speak for everyone listening when I say I hope those young men are okay, seeing that they were on a humanitarian mission and all. One of the NCR Rangers here on the Strip had this to say about the report. I don't care if they're little girls or boys who haven't even got hair on their chest. If you wear an E, I will shoot you on sight. There's no mercy for the Enclave scum. I've gotta say, I don't think the Enclave feels all the same about mercy here, people. But I do know that the NCR sure don't like 'em. Let's get back to some tunes. My face when a real player said that in-game to one of the Securitrons. My face when Mr. New Vegas put that on the radio. My face when the salt coming from the NCR is enough to make slugs go extinct.